Is Charles going to address the Uncle Ted scandal and the cover-up by the USCCB? You want to talk about that a little bit?
Dear old Uncle Ted, former Cardinal McCarrick. My mother used to have a saying, love is everywhere, but generally not worth picking up. Now, she, of course, was referring to streetwalkers. In this case, I'm referring to Cardinal McCarrick. The details, of course, will be known to everyone listening to me. As will be apparent, both here and in Rome and around the world in different countries, there are a number of self-sustaining, self-reproducing coteries of gay gentlemen in the higher reaches of the Catholic Church. This is not the first time this has happened. It was the case under Julius III in the 1550s. It was the case during the pornocracy, the 900s, into the 1000s. And that was, 120 years of that.
Mm-hmm.
When the popes themselves were chosen by, for a better word, I can only say Roman sluts.
Uh-huh.
As you might imagine, clerical discipline under that kind of a rule went all to pieces. So much so that in the 12th century or 11th century, St. Peter Damian wrote the Book of Gomorrah, outlining clerical sexual sins at that time, and it makes really grisly reading today. There's a new version of it just out. Because human nature doesn't change, human sinfulness doesn't change, and when, for whatever reason, the top echelon of the church are busy with other things, things go haywire. There'll always be any kind of sinner you can imagine in the church and in the hierarchy of the church, always. But how powerful they are, how much the fore they come to, that varies. Now, inevitably, two things, when this stuff happens, two things usually end up reversing it or stamping it down for a while.
What?
A reformist pope who's very keen on rooting out the evil as opposed to being part of it. When a pope's part of the evil, it makes things more harder. But the second is an upswing of sanctity on the part of the church people. In other words, let's say, just for the sake of argument, that a cardinal of the Holy Roman Church was basically constructed a gay harem for himself. Or that it was the Pope, a la Julius III.
Okay.
Now, on the one hand, these things do have to be exposed and denounced.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way around that. I mean, what happens if you allow mold to grow in the dark?
It grows more.
Yeah. Do roaches enjoy the light?
Do roaches enjoy the light? No, I guess when you turn the light on, they scatter.
Right.
You have a lot of them.
So basically, if you don't want mold, you don't want roaches, you need to keep the light on.
That's interesting. That's a good argument when, I think a lot of people are wondering, how much can we attack this and how do we do it with charity?
Well, I'll get to that.
Yeah.
Because that's only half the battle.
Okay.
The other half is personal sanctity. We, all of us, have to strive to become saints. Not enough of us do. If we did, then on one level, we'd doubtless get the clergy we deserve. But on another level, the holier we are, the more prudent we become, and the easier able to balance severity with mercy.
Interesting. Severity with mercy. Okay.
Because, some of these people, I don't know about McCarrick, but some of his boys were probably not as terrible as he was. Maybe a few of them even were salvageable.
Okay.
But it takes the discernment of the Holy Ghost to figure that out. And you don't get that unless you try to be holy yourself. But even putting that aside, just as every sin any one of us commits helps bring the whole structure down. Every virtue we practice lifts it up.
Mm.
So if you're really concerned and horrified about Uncle Ted McCarrick and the rest of the gang, apart from denouncing their evils, work on your own personal sanctity, your devotional life, your sacramental life. If we were all holier people, this would be much less of a problem. But in a very real sense, these dogs in office reflect us.
Yeah.
I mean, how many of us laity have no trouble coexisting with fornication? And when I say coexisting, I don't mean necessarily doing it oneself, but turning a blind eye to contraception. You know, we attack homosexuality for its unnatural nature, and it is unnatural. But so too is contraceptive heterosexuality. And we don't have a problem with that. But it is inevitably led to abortion.
Yeah.
And we don't have a problem with that either. So we may indeed be ruled by scumbags. The trick is to avoid resembling them.
Okay.
We don't want to look by the people. We don't want to look or be like the people who misrule us. And if enough of us attempt to become holy, the whole thing will get better.
Okay. Okay. Well, that kind of leads into. I mean, that kind of almost answers the next question from Anthony Giovacchini. He asks, "How will the sex abuse crisis in the church finally be resolved? I just don't understand how so many wicked perverts have infiltrated Christ's holy church. Countless lives have been ruined, and the faith of many has been shattered. Do you think Pope Francis has the will to fix this?"
Well, you're right. I've already answered a large part of that. We need to be holy ourselves, and we need to expose this stuff prudently.
Yeah.
In accordance with but it does have to be exposed. There's no doubt about that. As far as Pope Francis, he's the big question mark. Is he a weak-willed non-solver, or is he part of the problem? Is he Julius III, or is he Leo X?
Well, let me ask you this. How long has he been in office?
He has been in office since 2013.
So that's what is that? That's 5 years? So
5 years.
That's longer than a presidential term. So, I mean, that's like, is there accounting? Like, can we look at a record like, okay, what has he done? How has he stacked up?
Pretty poorly.
Pretty poorly.
He's done some very good things. I mean, he canonized St. Junipero Serra.
But specifically, I mean, what is his approach to this solving the sex abuse crisis?
He doesn't have one. I mean, under Pope Benedict, 800 priests were sacked, and there was a zero tolerance policy.
Mm.
Under this guy, if you're a buddy of his or a buddy of one of his buddies, doesn't matter what you do, unless A, you're arrested civilly, and B, you're the subject of the media. If you don't have that against you, then he'll keep you.
Well,
Love will bloom.
Doesn't that continue with this theme of mercy, though?
Yes, but his mercy is only extended to the guilty. Toward the innocent, he has very little mercy at all.
What does that mean?
It means he's not a nice person.
To the innocent?
He's not a nice person to the innocent.
Okay, you're going to have to elaborate on that one.
No, I don't.
No, you don't?
No.
That's defamation of character. You need to justify...
I don't need to justify nothing.
No?
No. I actually, the way that he has dealt with any conservative traditional church order that he could control shows what he's like. I mean, you take the Franciscans, the Immaculate, who were growing rapidly and were doing quite well. He wrecked them. Look at the Order of Malta. He just... And of course, he loves and ended the inquiry into all of those orders of wild liberal American sisters, the pantsuited gray-haired monsters.
Uh-huh.
He endorsed them and even promised to look into the possibility of deaconesses for them. That is his bunch. The old women of all genders, the gay priests, the McCarricks of the world, the embezzlers and so forth. He's got a real coterie there.
Mm.
Every time you turn around, some other close ally of the Pope is being exposed to either financial or sexual malfeasance or both.
Mm-hmm.
And yet he goes blithely on, talking away and smacking around people like, oh, these young Catholics, they're terrible, they're rigid, just so terrible. I mean, the nicest thing I could say about him is that his view of reality is 180 degrees from reality.
Yeah.
And yes, he's the real Pope.
Okay. I did end up finishing reading Dictator Pope, and one of the things that that doesn't get a lot of press is sort of the corruption with the finances at the Vatican. There's a lot of stuff going on. It's going to be interesting to see how that works out, as Henry Sire writes it. But yeah, there's more than just the sexual abuse stuff going on over there. There's a lot of financial corruption, it seems.
Well, there is, and he really either doesn't know and doesn't care, or he's part of the problem. But as I say, we've had popes like him before. And if we have world enough of time, we'll have more like that. But with any luck, we'll also get a run of saints sooner rather than later, please God.
I still have to believe, again, citing Dictator Pope, all the circumstances that had to happen, the extraordinary circumstances that had to happen to get Pope Francis to become Pope are so unbelievable that I absolutely believe it was 100% God's will that he is Pope.
Quite likely, because one of the things he's been doing is he's forcing us to examine what's real.
See, yeah, that's good. This is good. Like we don't just blindly listen anymore. We listen to the Pope, and then we think.
Yeah.
And that's a huge jump from what we used to do.
And it's a good jump, because under the old regime, we accepted anything.
Exactly.
Whereas now, you really have to know what you're talking about, or else shut up.
Exactly.
And the Holy Father,
so he's a teacher in a sense. This is a learning experience for us.
Oh yeah, it's a teaching moment, as Charlie Curran used to say. One of the Holy Father's goddesses. As I say, love is everywhere, but generally not worth picking up.
Mm-hmm.
What else you got?